Happy morning, dear children. Hope you all are well and good in your health. Sunday was the great day for all of us, as this day was celebrated as International Yoga Day, as well as Music Day, and more than that, Father's Day. Really, I am proud that we all are having a beautiful school where we used to have all such kind of celebrations. You can recollect related to the Yoga Day, my dear children. Every year our B.Ed trainee teachers, they used to give an important message related to Yoga Day, and yoga, we can say, it is related to our health, not only physical but mental health. And second thing related to Music Day. When I went to the video, I saw children dancing and doing, they were enjoying with the music. So this music, my dear children, really plays an important role in our life. As I told you about yoga, the same thing, music is also giving peace to our mind. It is relaxing our mental health. So I am that much happy to say that hats off to all my 12th standard children, those who were into this great venture related by doing a video on the Music Day. Now, when I am thinking of Father's Day, again I am proud, as here in our school we used to celebrate Father's Day in such a way that we all give importance to our parents. On this occasion we used to call many personalities, as well as we used to call the parents to the school to recognize them on this day. Dear children, as it has been said, Mata Pita Guru Devam, in that after mother, father is having the role there. Father is always behind the curtain. And as our life begins, the role of father also begins. And till we reach to our life zenith, or we can say till we reach to the age where we will be able to stand on our leg, till that age, or we can say till the end of the life, father used to be there with us. So father's role is the role where nobody can replace it. So again, I can say, my dear children, in our school, not only we are providing you with the academic part, we are also providing you with the value-based education. So we have to respect our parents, we have to give them love and care. Now in our society, what is happening, my dear children, you may be knowing about it. When the parents, they reach to their old age, what the children are doing? They are taking their parents to the old age, because there their responsibility gets over. They don't want to take the responsibility of the parents. Why it is? Why it is so? See, when we are born, from that day onwards till our end, if the parents are able to take the responsibility for us, why can't we? So as a Gurukulam children, I want you to take care of your parents, respect them, love them, care them, obey them, as my dear children. Only parents are the seen God. We have not seen God, isn't it? But we used to see our parents every day morning when you wake up. You used to see your parents first, then only the external world. So parents are seeing God, my dear children, love them and make them happy and be always with them till their last. So my dear children, again, happy and a great day for you. And now we are into our fourth session in the botany, and as we have studied in the last class the structure of androecium and gynoecium, you may be recollecting about it, so surely recollect it. Before that, have a sip of water, relax yourself for the next session. So here we begin with our next session. So we can see here the next session begins with the next topic, that is pollination. Already you have studied in your previous class, isn't it there? Just recollect what is pollination. You have learned it in your 8th standard, I think so. Didin, what about you? Yes. Yeah. Now I can say pollination. It is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the pistil. Already we know what is pistil. Pistil is the female reproductive part, or it is also called gynoecium. And we already studied about anther. It is a male reproductive part where we can see pollen grains. So what is pollination? It is a transfer of pollen grain from the anther, or we can say male reproductive part of the flower, to the stigma, which is the female reproductive part of the pistil, isn't it? Now, depending upon the source of pollen, what type of pollen is there, according to that we can divide pollination into 3 types: autogamy, diatonogamy, as well as we can say the third one is xenogamy or allogamy. Among these 3, autogamy and diatonogamy, they are coming under self-pollination. So already you are well known with this word, because this word we have studied in our previous class. Now the new word related to the self-pollination is autogamy and diatonogamy, which is a botanical term for self-pollination. And the third one is xenogamy, which is also known as cross-pollination. So this word again you are known to it in your previous class. So I understood, my dear children, what is autogamy, or I can say you have came to know what is self-pollination as well as cross-pollination. Now we can see in the picture the types of pollination. Here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 flowers are there, and among these flowers self-pollination is taking place there and cross-pollination is also taking place there. In the case of self-pollination, from the picture itself we can see anther where pollen grains are present there, and this pollen grain is being transferred to the stigma of the pistil in the same flower. This is self-pollination, which is also called autogamy. Auto means self, isn't it? And next one is diatonogamy or diatonomous pollination. Here what is the difference? A small difference we can see that same plant is there with 2 flowers, but of the same plant it is. Same plant with 2 flowers, where you can see the and in the anther pollen grains are present there. It will be transferred to the stigma of the female reproductive part, that is pistil. So such type of transfer, if it is taking place in the same plant, we can say it as diatonogamy type of pollination. Dear children, in the case of cross pollination, we can see 2 different plants are there, and in 2 different plants we can see flowers. And the flower of one plant, from there the pollen grain from the anther will be released and it will be accepted by the stigma of the pistil in the another plant, isn't it? So such kind of pollination is called so it is known as xenogamy or allogamy. Here we can see what I have said. I can tell you by giving the definition of autogamy, then xenogamy as well as diachogamy. The first one is autogamy, the process of transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the same flower. So we have to underline this one, same flower. That is, in a plant, the flower is there and the flower is having male and female reproductive part. So from the male to the female, the pollen grain will be transferred. Such type of pollination is known as autogamy. And in the pea plant, this is just an example, my dear children. In such plants, you can see such type of pollination. Hibiscus is another example. Now, some plants are there, that is, some rare cases are there, such as Oxalis, it is a grass, Commelina, etc. produces two types of flowers. In this case, in such kind of plants, we can see two types of flowers. One is chiasmogamous flower, the other one is clistogamous flowers. So these are the two types of flowers we can see in the case of Oxalis, Commelina types of plants. In case of chiasmogamous flower, we can say that these flowers are similar to the flowers of other species with exposed anthers and stigma. See, as usual in a normal case, when we see a plant, we can see the flower and the flower is open and we can see there the stigma, or we can see the whole parts of the flower, isn't it? There we can see stigma, pistil as well as the pollen grain, or what all things is in there we are able to see with our naked eyes. So, such kind of flowers we can say as chiasmogamous flowers. Now in the case of clistogamous flowers, these flowers, they do not open at all. That means they will be in the bud form. We know what is bud. In the bud, we will not be able to see the anther or stigma unless and until it is opened. Isn't it? Such type of flowers are known as clistogamous flowers. Now here you can see the figure of chiasmogamous as well as clistogamous. That means Commelina is having the flower which is opened, that is chiasmogamous flower, and it is also having the clistogamous flower. Now you understood in the autogamy there are two types of flowers. In rare cases only it happens. I have given you the example also. In those plants we can see these two types of flowers. So that is again an important part when we are just thinking of board examination. So you have to study what is chiasmogamous and what is clistogamous. Autogamy is also important, xenogamy is important, as well as diachogamy is also important. Now we can see what are the advantages of autogamy in clistogamous flowers, because I am not going into the chiasmogamous. Why, my dear children? Just think. Already it is been said that it is like the other flowers. Their anther and stigma is exposed. Now, in the case of clistogamous, we have studied that it is closed. So we should know what is the advantage of being closed there, isn't it? So here we can say there is no chance of cross pollination. Already we studied in the case of autogamous what is the self pollination. No cross pollination is taking place there. So there is no chance of cross pollination. Therefore, it always ensure autogamy. That's why we can say clistogamous are autogamous flowers or plants. Second one, it produces assured seed set even in the absence of pollinators. Why pollinators are needed there? We know that pollinators are those agents who will transfer the pollen grain from one plant to another plant, and these pollinators are useful in the cross-pollination process, isn't it? Here in the case of autogamy, no pollinators are needed there. So in the absence of pollinators also, clistogamous flowers, they are able to produce seed, and from the seed they are able to produce the plants. It is that assured means 100% they are able to set the seed there, and because of that the formation of new plant takes place. Now next one, there is no chance for genetic variation. As we know that in the case of cross pollination only, when two two parents they fuse together, the genes of different parents will be mating together and fusing together, and we will be getting a different offspring which will be having the genes of father as well as mother. But in this case, genetic variation is not there, because from the same plant the seed is being set there, or you can say from the same flower the seed is being set there. So the plant which will be produced there will be having the feature of that plant itself, the parent plant itself. Understood, my dear children? Now next one we have to study about geitonogamy, which is the second type of pollination taking place in plants. Transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of another flower of the same plant. Again, this one is important. Same plant. That means in the same plant we will be having two flowers, and there from one flower the pollen grain is being transferred to the another flower of the same plant. Such process is called or known as geitonogamy. And we can say the peculiarity of this geitonogamy is that it's genetically similar to autogamy. That is, the pollen grains come from the same plant. That's why it is genetically similar to autogamy. Pollen grain is coming from which plant? The same plant, not from the another plant. But functionally it resembles xenogamy. Xenogamy means cross pollination. That's why it is a mixture of autogamy and xenogamy. I think you would have understood about geitonogamy. The third type is xenogamy, which is also known as allogamy or cross pollination. Here we can say that the process of transfer of pollen grains from anther to a flower of the stigma of a flower of another plant. This is important, because here another plant is functioning. It is receiving the anther, we can say it is receiving the pollen grain from a different flower of a plant. So we can say that it is a process where the pollen grain of one plant flower is being received by the stigma of the flower of another plant. Such process is known as xenogamy. Now the advantages of xenogamy are: number one, it ensures genetic recombination and variability. This is the advantage of xenogamy. What is the advantage? Genetic recombination and variability. Here we are getting new combination when the parents are of two different plants. When they mate or when they fuse together, we will be getting new combination and new varieties. Number two, it produces plants with heterosis. Heterosis means hybrid vigor. That means with full strength, with full reproductive capacity, the plant will be produced there. And number three, it reduces inbreeding depression. You know the common word for depression. In case of human being also, the depression state will be there where we are not able to do anything. So we will be totally into that state. In the case of plants also, there is depression taking place, and it is because of inbreeding. Inbreeding, from the term itself we can say breeding between the same relatives, or we can say close relative plants. So when the breeding is continuous, mating within the very close relative reduces fertility and productivity. This is inbreeding depression. So when xenogamy is taking place, what is happening there? Inbreeding depression is reducing there because of the production of hybrid vigor plants. That is, heterosis is taking place there because the parents are different parents. Isn't it, my dear children? I think you have understood about xenogamy also. Now we can see the flow chart related to pollination. Pollination, it is classified into two types: self-pollination and cross-pollination. In the case of self-pollination, again we can see two types: autogamy, that is taking place between the same flower, and geitonogamy, where the flowers are different but the plant is same. And in the case of cross pollination, we know that two different plant and two different flowers will be there. Now, when we are coming to the cross-pollination part, we can see that because cross-pollination means agents, pollinators. So, pollinating agents are of two types, abiotic and biotic. In the case of abiotic, again it is classified into two types, wind and water. So, in case of wind, it is also known as anemophily, and water it is known as hydrophily. Understood, my dear children? Now when we are coming to the biotic part, we can see there are, biotic means from the living organism, the pollen grains are transferred from one plant or flower to the another plant flower. So here we can see numerous types of agents are there. Number one, snail, which is again in technical term the name is given there as Lacophily. In case of insects, it is entomophily. In case of birds, it is ornithophily. And when bats become the agents for the pollinating or for pollinating the flower, we can say bats are known as, or its technical term is Pteropterophily. And other vertebrates, when they become the pollinators there, they are known as zoophily. So this is how the pollination is being classified there, based on the sources present there. Isn't it, my dear children? Now, again we can see the nature of pollinating agents. On the basis of that, we can see abiotic and biotic agents are there. In the case of abiotic agents, wind pollination, which is also known as anemophily. Anemophily. When we break that word, we can say phily means pollination, anemo means wind. So, wind becomes the agent for pollinating the flower. So that is called, or that is known as anemophily or wind pollination. The features related to the wind pollinating agents are, or we can say the features related to the wind pollination. Number one, pollen grains are light and non-sticky. Number two, flowers have large feathery stigma and exposed stamens. So in the case of pollen grains, we can say that, see, when wind has to take the pollen grain from one plant or flower to the other flower, isn't it? So there, if the pollen grain is heavy, it is impossible for the wind to carry. So in that case, in those flowers, the pollen grains will be light and non-sticky. And in the case of the female part, stigma, it is feathery. And we can say there, in the case of female flower, the stamens will be exposed. Exposed means we are able to see them with the naked eyes. And next one, again, flowers are unisexual. Already we have studied about what is unisexual. Unisexual means, my dear children, yes, Suvenia, you can answer. Yes, my dear child, it's good. But you have said the correct answer. Unisexual means the plant bear only one reproductive organ. It may be a male reproductive part or it may be a female reproductive part. Next part, here the flowers are not colored. We will not be able to see the flowers who are colored or which are colored in the case of the wind pollination. Now next one, they don't have fragrance. No smell we can see in those flowers. Example, coconut. See, in Kerala you can see coconut plants everywhere, isn't it? And in our home itself coconut plant is there. So we can see the flower in the coconut plant and you can just take the flower and you can smell it. You will never feel any fragrance there. And second thing, no, it is not colorful also, isn't it? And coconut plant, in the case of coconut plant, we can see male and female two plants are there related to coconut plant. In the case of wheat also the same thing is there, rice, maize, etc. And all these plants, we can say that they are unisexual, they don't have color and fragrance is not there, and the pollen grain in them will be non-sticky, isn't it? And in the case of stigma, they are feathery and the stamens will be exposed. So this is the a figure of a plant where you can see exposed stamens are present there. This is exposed stamens, or we can say the anther part where we are able to see them through our naked eyes. Now, the second part, that is the second pollination, is water pollination, which is also known as hydrophily. From the term hydro means water, phily means pollination. So, how we can define it? Pollination by the agency of water is known as water pollination or hydrophily, and the features of water pollination plants are pollen grains are long and ribbon-like in the case of a plant called Zostera. These are the aquatic plants. Zostera is one of the aquatic plants. We can see the pollen grains in them are long and ribbon-like. Ribbon-like means they will be long and has, I think you know what is ribbon-like. In the form of ribbon, their pollen grains will be there. Next one is stigma, is sticky but unvegetable. In the female part, the stigma will be sticky because it wants to receive the pollen grain, and the pollen grain should attach to the stigma. So for that, the stigma will be sticky but it is unvegetable. What is the meaning of unvegetable? That is, no water will be there on the stigma. It will not get wet. Okay. Then female flowers will be submerged. In some of the aquatic plants, we can say that female flowers always seen below the water, inside the water. They will never seen on the surface of the water. Example, sea grasses. And the next one is, again we can say there, in some cases female flowers occur above the surface of water. Such cases are also there where we can see female flowers are seen on the surface of water. Example, Vallisneria. Vallisneria and Zostera, this is very important in the view related to the board examination. Next, again it is been said that flowers are unisexual and nectarless. Here also we can see flowers as male reproductive male part as well as female part, and they are nectarless. They don't have nectar in them. Flowers are colored and scented. Same common thing what I said for you for the previous one related to wing pollination. We can see here also the flowers are not at all attractive. They don't have any scent, that is fragrance. Here you can see the picture that is pollination taking place in the case of Vallisneria. This Vallisneria is an aquatic plant. You can see this plant in the water only. Here you can see ribbon-like pollen grain. So ribbon-like pollen grains. That is pollen. This is a stamen where you can see this is the male reproductive part where you can see in the form of ribbon-like. And next thing, inflorescence we can see here. Inflorescence you have studied in your 11th standard. What is inflorescence? Yes, you can recollect it, my dear children. What is inflorescence? Already you have studied in the 11th standard. In the case of inflorescence, you can see here male inflorescence, that is clusters of flower together, isn't it? That is inflorescence. It is a male inflorescence. And next thing you can see here the female flower. See, it is just above the water. And next thing, the male flower, after when it matures, that is the flower will release the pollen grain, and the male flower will be coming with the pollen grain to the surface of the water, and it will be reaching to the female flower, and there the stigma is ready to receive the pollen grain, and later on fertilization will be taking place in the stigma of the flower. This is how the pollination is taking place in the case of Vallisneria, or we can say in the case of water related pollinations. Now that is about abiotic pollination. Now we are into the biotic agent, where biotic means living organisms are involved in the pollination, and here it is also known as animal pollination. Also it is called as zoophily, isn't it? Zoo means animal, phily means pollination. So when the pollination is taking place by the agency of animals, it is known as animal pollination or zoophily. And the features related to the animal pollination are flowers are conspicuous. What do you mean by that? It will be very small. Is isn't it? And flowers are colored. Colored means they will be very much attractive. And flowers have fragrance for attracting the animals. They will be having what in them? Scent, so that the animals will be attracted towards them for pollination. And next thing, pollen grains are sticky in them. The male reproductive part, that is the anther, contains pollen grain which will be sticky. Example related to this is Amorphophallus, which is having the tallest flower, and next one is the yucca plant. Many more examples are there, but these two you will be knowing very nicely. Amorphophallus as well as yucca plant, they are related to the animal pollination. Here you can see how the pollination is taking place with the help of the animal, or we can say insect. The first we can say there, the flower is there, pollinator visits flower to collect nectar. Already I told you nectar is present there, so surely for collecting the nectar, and it is attractive. So the insect, or we can say the pollinator, which is the flower to collect the nectar. And again, when we are seeing the second step, what happens there? Pollen on another sticks to the, pollen of anther sticks to the pollinator. The pollen grain which is present here in this flower, when the insect will be sucking the nectar, that time the pollen grain of this flower sticks to the body part of the pollinator. And the third case, what happens, we can see pollinator moves to the another flower. From there the insects travel, or it will be going to the another flower. And in the fourth case, pollen is transferred to the stigma of another flower. So this is how the pollination is being taking place by the animals such as insects. In the case of animal pollination, again we can classify it into different types such as entomophily, which is known as insect pollination. Number 2, ornithophily, which is also known as through birds. Birds are also the agents of pollination. So through birds when pollination is taking place, it is known as ornithophily. And the third one is chiropterophily. Chiroptera means, when we break this word, Chiroptera is the name or zoological term for the bat. So bats are also good pollinators. So if bats are pollinating the plant or the flower, we can say it as Chiropterophily. Now, here among the three, we can just study about the insect pollination, or we can say it as entomophily, which is very, very important when we are just into the textbook of +2 botany, isn't it? So in this case, insect pollination, we can say that if the flowers are pollinated by insects, such type of pollination is known as, or they are known as insect pollination or entomophily. Now the examples, many examples are there related to the such type of pollination, isn't it? Examples, rose, sunflower, many other examples are there. Just I will give you the 2 examples. When we are into the nature, we can see many flowers are there which are being pollinated by insects as well as different types of animals. Now the features related to the insect pollination are: number 1, flowers are large and colorful. In the case of insect pollination, the flowers will be large in size and they will be colorful. Means surely if they will be colorful, then only what will happen? The insect will be attracted towards the flower. So they are colorful. And number 2, they produce nectar. Why the insects are going to the flowers? To take nectar. So for that purpose, the flowers will produce nectar. They produce fragrance. Smell will be there, so that insects will be attracted towards the flower. Pollen grains are sticky and spiny. What is the meaning of spiny? Small thorns will be there in the pollen grain, and it is sticky, and stigma becomes also sticky there. Stigma is also sticky because when it receives the pollen grain should be attached to the stigma. For that, the stigma is sticky. So this is the characteristic features of insect pollination. My dear children, in nature there are many pollinators which will not pollinate the flower, but what they will do, they will rob the nectar. So such type of pollinators are also there in the nature. We can see what it is. It has been said as pollen robbers or nectar robbers. That is, many insects may consume pollen grain or nectar without bringing about pollination. Such animal visitors are called as pollen or nectar robbers. I think you would have understood what is the meaning of pollen robbers or nectar robbers. In the nature, what is being said there are many insects will be consuming pollen grain, or who will be there which will be visiting the plant for getting the nectar. They will get it, they will take it, but they will not pollinate the flowers. So such pollen visitors or nectar visitors, those who are there going there to the flower, those are known as pollen robbers or nectar robbers. Now, we have said that inbreeding depression is taking place, isn't it, in the plant? Why it is happening? Because when closely relative plants are breeding, moving for more times, continuously when it happens, the depression automatically will be taking place. The fertility of the plant will be getting decreased, the production will be getting decreased. So to overcome those things, plant is adapting itself some other devices so that it can adapt the cross pollination, and because of that the fertility can be increased as well as the productivity can also be increased. So such kind of devices are there and they are known as outbreeding device. It is just opposite of inbreeding. Outbreeding devices, that is continued self-pollination results in inbreeding depression. So in flowering plants, what they are doing, they have developed many devices to discourage self-pollination and to encourage the cross-pollination or xenogamy. For what purpose? Just to avoid inbreeding depression, they are going with the outbreeding devices, and those devices are: number one, unisexuality, which is also known as declining. That means production of unisexual flowers. When the bisexual flowers will be there, what will happen, my dear children? Surely the self-pollination will be taking place between them. So declining means production of unisexual flowers. And number two, dichogamy. Dichogamy means anther and stigma mature at different time. That is, the maturity of anther and stigma will be taking place at different time. When the anther is maturing, that time stigma will not be mature. So what will happen? No self-pollination will be taking place there. Now, third one is protandry. Protandry. Andry means androecium, pro means prior. That is, anthers mature first. Next one is protogyny. Gyne means gynoecium, pro means prior. That is, stigma mature first. In such type, what happens? When anther mature first, stigma will not be maturing. When the stigma is maturing first, anther will not be. Isn't it? So, in such type of flowers, self-pollination will not be taking place. Next one, self-incompatibility. That means sterility will be developed there. What do you mean by sterile and fertile? Fertile, opposite is sterile. Isn't it? So, the plant itself is moving into the sterile process and it will not develop any reproductive processes such as this one, pollen grain, or the stigma will not be receiving any pollen grain, so that the fertilization process will not be taking place in there. Next part, it has been said it is a genetic mechanism, that is, it is developing by itself by the means of genetic mechanism. What happens there, which prevents the growth of pollen tube. So the stigma will become more conscious during this time. When the pollen will be, or pollen grain, when it reaches the stigma, that time what happens, this mechanism works there and the pollen tube will not be produced there in the pistil of the female flower. Next one is prepotency. The pollen grains of another flower germinate on the stigma more rapidly than the pollen grains of the same flower. It is cross-pollination, isn't it? Here it is promoting cross-pollination. How? The pollen grains of another flower will be reaching there on the flower and it will germinate very fastly. And when comparing to the pollen grain of the same flower, the germination will be not taking place at all, because already the pollen grain of another flower has reached there and the germination has taken place there. Next one is heterostyle. Flowers have different types of height of styles and stamens. Heterostyle, from the name itself, hetero means different styles they are having, and here it is been said that the height of the style is the longest part in the case of female reproductive system, isn't it? There you can see stigma, style and ovary. Three parts are there in the female reproductive part. In that case, the style of the flower will be having different heights. The stamen also will be having different heights. So what will happen? Self-pollination will not be taking place there. Then next one is, the last one is hercogamy, where mature anther and the stigma occur in different positions. When the anther and stigma, they will mature, they will be in different position in the flower. So what will happen again there? We can say that it is preventing self-pollination and it is promoting cross-pollination. So these are the 8 types of outbreeding devices, my dear children, which you have to study. It is very important, and you can see those technical terms which is given there. It is from the word or from the what is being given there as self-incompatibility or prepotency, heterostyle or hercogamy. All from this word itself will be able to find out the meaning. It's very easy, my dear children, and this is very important. Next one is related to the next part or next topic, that is, see, when pollen grain reaches the stigma of the flower, it is a duty and responsibility of the stigma to accept the pollen grain or not to accept the pollen grain. Such type of interaction is taking place between the pistil as well as the anther, or we can say the pollen grain, when the pollen grain reaches the stigma. So that type of interaction is known as pollen-pistil interaction. After this interaction only, the next process, that is fertilization, is taking place. So we can see here what is pollen-pistil interaction, and here we can say all the events from pollen deposition on the stigma until pollen tube enters the ovule are together referred to as pollen-pistil interaction. Shiga, understood? It's very simple. In a simple language it has been said here, isn't it? What all events are there which is taking place from the pollen deposition on the stigma until the pollen tubes are formed there and reaching the ovule. Till that process, together we can say it as pollen-pistil interaction. After reaching the ovule, what happens? The male gametes enters into the ovule where egg is present, and the egg it will be fusing and fertilization will be taking place. So till the pollen tube enters the ovule, till that process, it is called pollen-pistil interaction. Now again it is being said that it is a dynamic process. Why it is a dynamic process? Because it involves pollen recognition followed by promotion or inhibition of the pollen grain. See, only the angiosperms can do all these things, isn't it, my dear children? As in the angiosperm, they are having a different mechanism to find out which pollen is suitable for them. The pistil is having the ability to recognize the pollen grain, and to find out which is the right type and which is the wrong type. And from that it will be selecting the right type and it will be rejecting the wrong type. That is the dynamic process which we can see only in angiosperms, or we can say in flowering plants. Here you can see the picture. It is related to the steps in pollen pistil interaction, where we can see this is already you know what is it, isn't it? Here we can see synergid, egg cell, polar nuclei, antipodal, isn't it? Now this is the female part, and here you can see in the center the embryo sac, which we have already studied in our previous class, that it is 8 nucleated and 7 cell structure. Now, as the pollen, this is stigma of the plant, isn't it, flower? And here you can see these are the pollen grains which are producing the tube. And how it is producing the tube? I told you in the pollen pistil interaction, the pistil will be recognizing the pollen grain and accepting it. After that dynamic process where the pistil will be producing certain chemicals and the pollen grains will be producing certain chemicals, and these chemicals, they will be having that interaction and a reaction will be taking place, and because of that reaction only the pistil is able to find out which is the correct type of the pollen grain which it needs, and it will accept that pollen grain. And because of that, from the pollen grain, we have already studied in the structure of pollen grain, germ pores are there, and through this germ pore the pollen tubes will be produced. So in the case of pollen grain, when it reaches the stigma, through the germ pore of the pollen grain, pollen tubes will be produced there after the acceptance by the pistil. And this tube will be having 2 cells. We have studied there, isn't it, my dear children? It is Aishwarya. I am asking to Aishwarya DS. Just recollect, 2 cells are there, that is generative cell and vegetative cell, isn't it? In that, the generative cell will be producing 2 gametes. It will be undergoing division and it will be producing 2 gametes, that is 2 male gametes. And in this tube, the 2 male gametes will be reaching to the synergid. That also we have studied in our last class, into the synergid, and with the help of the filiform apparatus, the male gametes enter into the embryo sac and fuses with the egg. This is the longitudinal section of a flower showing the growth of pollen tube. This is the growth of pollen tube. Now here, this is the second process what is happening there after reaching into the ovary for the next process, fertilization, where we can see the vegetative nucleus is there which will be degenerating later on, and male gametes are there, filiform apparatus is present there which is making the male gametes to enter into the embryo sac for fertilization. And the last we can see here what is happening there, male gamete fusing with the egg as well as the polar nuclei, and with that fertilization is taking place there between the male gamete and the egg as well as the nuclei, or we can say polar nuclei. Now, steps we can see there in the case of pollen pistil interaction. Already it has been said that pistil has the ability to recognize the pollen whether it is the right type or wrong type. Number 2, if it is of the right type, it means the pollen grain is of right type, the pistil accepts the pollen and promotes post-fertilization events that leads to fertilization. Already I told you by showing that picture itself, I said, I just made you understood, isn't it? This picture itself what is happening there. When the pollen grain is being accepted there, later on pollen tube is produced there and the male gamete enters into the embryo sac for fertilization process. Now, when the pollen is of wrong type, the pistil rejects the pollen by preventing pollen germination of the stigma. I told you there is a dialogue taking place between the pollen grain as well as the pistil. And between that dialogue, the pistil will be knowing which is the right type and which is the wrong type of pollen grain. See, it's written here. It is a continuous dialogue between pollen grain and the pistil. Now, following the pollination, pollen grains at two-cell condition germinate on the stigma to produce pollen tube through one of the germ pore. This also I made you understood just before, isn't it? That is previously what I had taken, what I was doing, what I was telling about you about the formation of pollen tube. That time I told you that germ pore, through the germ pore what happens, pollen tube is produced there and the pollen grain will be at two cells, a generative cell and a vegetative cell in it. Now, the generative cell mitotically divides and forms two gametes. This also I made you understood. Now, vegetative cell, what happens to it? It degenerates. Now, the male gametes grow through the style and reaches the ovary. So, the male gametes which are produced there by the mitotic division of generative cell, they will be reaching through the pollen tube into the ovary. In the embryo sac, where egg and pollen nuclei are present there for further process which is called fertilization. Now, pollen tube enters the ovule in three ways. Already we know that there is a structure of ovule which is having micropylar end, chalazal end, it is also having integuments. Isn't it? We have to see what are the ways through which pollen tube enter the ovule. Number one, through micropyle. When the pollen tube enters through micropylar end, it is known as porogamy. Next one, chalazal end, that is chalaza. And when it is being entering through the chalazal end, it is known as chalazogamy. And the third one is when the pollen tube enters through the integument other than micropyle or chalazal end, it is known as mesogamy. So my dear children, I think you would have understood today's session very nicely. So what you have to do from this session, what you have to do is that you have to just write down the notes and be prepared, be ready. I will be coming to you for just seeing the notes which you have done for this session. So till the time I am leaving, I am taking a break from you. So be happy, be healthy and always have a great day and always respect your parents and love them, care them and obey them so that your family will be healthy and will be full of happiness. Have a great day. Thank you.